If Eala, can keep doing well with her tennis, who knows? The sky's the limit on the court, off the court.
Is she the biggest draw in women's tennis right now in the world?
And then we have a big challenger after this in
Indian Wells has officially thrown open its gates today on March 4th, welcoming the tennis world to one of its most prestigious stages. Even before the first serve was hit in the main draw, a respected tennis analyst unleashed a powerful critique aimed squarely at the WTA. He highlighted how the organization appears to be completely overlooking the massive phenomenon surrounding Eala and the incredible wave of support coming from the nearly 2 million-strong Filipino community that has essentially taken over the California venue. The courts, the sprawling grandstands, the bustling walkways, every corner of Indian Wells is alive with this vibrant energy, and the atmosphere is still building toward its full intensity. For the first time in her young career, Eala has entered this tournament as a seeded player. Sitting comfortably at world number 31, she already has a first-round bye locked in. California is home to close to 2 million people of Filipino heritage. This is far more than just a dedicated fan base showing up to cheer. It feels like a full cultural takeover of a major tennis event, and yet the WTA seems to be doing virtually nothing to capitalize on what could easily be the most powerful and natural marketing opportunity women's tennis has seen in years. Just days ago, a group of well-known former professional players appeared on a popular tennis podcast and described her as an absolute rock star. They openly debated whether she is currently a bigger draw than players like Aryna Sabalenka or even Iga Swiatek, and the consensus was an emphatic yes without hesitation. One former champion went so far as to compare her level of fame and impact to that of Michael Jordan in his prime. Martina Navratilova, speaking specifically in the lead-up to Indian Wells, emphasized how crucial it is right now to shield Eala from the overwhelming frenzy and pressure that this kind of sudden global spotlight can bring. Tennis insiders are speaking out loudly and passionately about this situation, while the WTA continues to treat it as if it were just another ordinary day on the tour. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, now is the perfect time to do so, because this discussion is only going to grow louder and more significant as the tournament unfolds. So, what exactly is the WTA failing to recognize here? And why does this oversight carry far greater consequences than most fans and observers might initially understand? Previous stops on the tour had already given clear glimpses of this growing movement. In Melbourne, the Filipino community turned out in impressive numbers. In Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Filipino workers and expatriates scattered across the UAE created electric environments at every venue. Those tournaments delivered packed crowds, thunderous noise, and unforgettable atmospheres. However, none of those locations could match what is happening right now in California. This is not a situation where fans are traveling from halfway across the globe. Indian Wells sits right in the heart of territory that is essentially home ground for nearly 2 million Filipinos who have been eagerly following Eala's journey. They have been tracking every step of her ranking progress, every impressive result, and every detail of her draw announcement with a level of passion and dedication that most sports organizations would spend enormous marketing budgets trying to create from scratch. A prominent tennis commentator addressed this issue head-on just a few days ago. He pointed out that the WTA has been gifted something incredibly rare and valuable, something no amount of money could artificially engineer through traditional advertising campaigns. And yet, their response so far has been nothing but complete silence. This pattern of inaction did not begin at Indian Wells. The signs were already evident back in January during the Australian Open, and they only became more obvious as the season progressed. On January 19th at the Australian Open, organizers scheduled Eala on Court 6, a relatively modest outer court with seating for roughly 1,000 spectators. What happened next was pure pandemonium. Long lines of enthusiastic Filipino supporters stretched far outside Melbourne Park, reaching all the way back toward Rod Laver Arena. Hundreds of fans were turned away at the gates even before a single ball was struck. Those who could not secure seats inside gathered in outdoor viewing zones and followed the action on large screens. Inside Court 6, every single seat was taken. There was not a single empty spot along the courtside areas, nor any unoccupied space at the overlooking bars or walkways. Philippine flags waved proudly from every section of the stands. Chants of "Let's go Alex" echoed so powerfully that the chair umpire had to repeatedly ask for quiet so play could continue. Her opponent that day was Alicia Parks, who was ranked around number 99 at the time. After the match, Parks openly admitted that the intense atmosphere had genuinely unsettled her, especially during the opening set. She explained to reporters that she had to constantly remind herself to stay focused because the roaring noise from the crowd was disrupting her concentration. Despite the challenging environment, Parks eventually fought back to win the match 0-6, 6-3, 6-2 after being completely shut out in the first set by that wall of passionate support. A well-known tennis coach later commented publicly that the tournament organizers should have anticipated this kind of overwhelming turnout well in advance. Eala had already been surrounded by crowds of fans during her practice sessions even before the main draw began. That visible excitement was a clear warning sign, yet she was still assigned to a court that was far too small for the demand. One sports journalist summed it up bluntly on social media that same day, calling the decision to place Eala on court 6 simply short-sighted and poorly thought out. That was the situation in January, and the WTA witnessed it all firsthand. Then in February, the scheduling decisions somehow became even more questionable during the Dubai Tennis Championships. In the second and third rounds, Eala had been positioned as the final match of the night session on center court. This timing worked beautifully. Filipino fans would arrive early, enjoy the preceding matches, and ensure the stadium was already filled to capacity by the time she stepped onto the court. Other players benefited from the strong attendance, and the tournament itself gained from the lively energy. However, when the quarterfinals arrived and Eala was drawn to face Iga Swiatek, the WTA suddenly shifted her match to open the night session instead of closing it. For fans watching back home in the Philippines, who are roughly 4 hours ahead of Dubai time, a 7:00 p.m. start in Dubai translates to 11:00 p.m. in Manila, if the match extended beyond 2 hours. Many supporters would still be glued to their screens well past 1:00 a.m. Beyond the inconvenient late-night timing for international viewers, there was an obvious impact on the live crowd that any experienced scheduler should have foreseen. The match scheduled immediately after Eala's quarterfinal featured former world number 3 Elina Svitolina against another strong competitor. Once Eala left the court, the vast majority of that energized, packed stadium was expected to depart right along with her. This meant Svitolina, a highly accomplished player and multiple WTA 1000 title winner, would likely be performing in front of a significantly emptier arena. Not due to any lack of respect for her achievements, but simply because the entire evening's attendance had been built around Eala's star power, and then she was moved to the very beginning of the session. The difference from the previous round was striking. In the third round, Swiatek and another player had battled through a competitive 3-set match before Eala took the court. That stadium had remained full and loud because the Filipino supporters had shown up early and stayed engaged. After that match, Swiatek herself had stepped up to the microphone and graciously addressed the crowd, saying something along the lines of, "I know many of you are probably here for Alex, so I'm sorry for making you wait." The world number 4 openly acknowledging in front of a capacity crowd that most fans had not come primarily to watch her was a powerful moment. That clip quickly spread like wildfire across tennis social media platforms. Then, after defeating Eala comfortably by a score of 6-0, 6-2 in the quarterfinal, Swiatek made a comment that the WTA would have been wise to study carefully. She said she wanted to thank Alex for bringing an entirely new demographic into the sport and that she genuinely appreciated it. For a top 4 player to publicly credit a rising star who was still outside the top 30 at the time for helping expand tennis's reach was far from a standard post-match remark. It was a clear recognition of the larger cultural shift taking place right before everyone's eyes. Despite all of these unmistakable signals, the WTA's official response remained minimal at best. Just days before Indian Wells began, another insightful conversation took place on the Nothing Major podcast. Former professional players tackled the question directly: is Alex Eala currently the biggest draw in women's tennis? Bigger than Sabalenka? Bigger than Swiatek? The answer came without any qualification or doubt, an immediate and unanimous yes. One of the former players drew comparisons between the scenes surrounding Eala and the kind of electric atmosphere Coco Gauff had generated on the men's side during events like Miami the previous year. Every court she played on at the Australian Open turned into standing room-only territory. The same thing happened in Dubai. Tournament directors are now finding themselves compelled to place her on center court not as a courtesy but out of pure necessity, because her crowds simply cannot be contained in smaller venues. This is highly unusual for a player ranked number 31 in the world. John Isner remarked that many people have seriously underestimated just how large and passionate the Filipino tennis market truly is. Sam Querrey added that if Eala ever wins a Grand Slam title, It could rank among the most monumental moments in the entire world of sports. She has already appeared on the cover of Vogue magazine without yet cracking the top 10 or lifting a Grand Slam trophy. Kim Clijsters drew parallels between her impact and that of Michael Jordan. Navratilova stressed the need to protect her from the intense pressures. Even Rafael Nadal publicly defended her after she faced harsh online criticism following her Australian Open defeat. These are not isolated or exaggerated views from the fringes. They represent the collective opinion of some of the most credible and experienced voices across the tennis landscape. The WTA has now had two clear opportunities to handle this situation proactively: the Australian Open and Dubai, and both times the organization appeared to react only after problems had already surfaced. Indian Wells represents the third major chance, and it carries the highest stakes yet. This time, it is not about supporters making long-haul flights from Manila. This is the largest Filipino community anywhere in the United States, living within easy driving distance of the tournament grounds. They have been patiently waiting for this moment ever since Eala's breakthrough run in Miami last year thrust her into the international spotlight. The WTA finds itself in possession of a genuine cultural phenomenon, one that is delivering sold-out sessions, creating viral highlights, and drawing worldwide attention, all centered around a talented 20-year-old who has not yet won a WTA 1000 title, reached the top 10, or claimed a Grand Slam. When those milestones eventually arrive, and it feels like only a matter of when, not if, the failure to properly build around and support this extraordinary window of opportunity may well be remembered as one of the most talked-about missed chances in the history of women's sports marketing. The 2 million-strong Filipino army has effectively taken over California for this event. Indian Wells has kicked off today, and the WTA still has not stepped forward with any meaningful or visible strategy to embrace it. Now it's your turn. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the WTA is truly missing the boat here, or do you feel this criticism is being overstated? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit that button and enable notifications. As long as Eala remains in this draw, we will be right here delivering immediate coverage and analysis of every important development the moment it unfolds.